We're back. We're back with some more of The Great Ace Attorney 2. The second one. I feel like recapping at this point once again would just be basically me saying go watch the other stream, but I'll do a short recap anyway, just to fill in the gaps, I guess. Last time they killed my boy Luigi and I cried for like at least 5 minutes once the stream was done. Also, Van Zeeks is like the one who's being accused, so that's just swell. There's also, if I'm remembering right, we're also facing off against our boyfriend. So it's really just a whole like 3-layer cake of just what the fuck is happening. But, you know, we might as well dig in, huh? Let's fucking, let's go. The 2nd of November. Damn, that's pretty close to the date it was today. Except today was the 5th. Perry, what are you talking about? Perry, you're a dumbass. There's that old familiar feeling again. The crushing pressure of this historic courthouse. Actually, no, it's a little different today. There's an even more menacing tension in the air. There's a menacing tension in the air here today, isn't there? I suppose, yeah, I think so. It can only be the result of the menacing appearance of the defendant. I can't believe we're defending Dracula in court. A little more courtesy, if you please. Hey, I'm only treating you with the same courtesy you treated me. Oh my! I do apologize. However, you're certainly not mistaken that this trial is far from ordinary. What do you mean? I'm not privy to the details. However, I understand that no jury has been Oh shit, just like old times? Well, wait. I can't, I was about to say, wait, no, if we're talking timeline-wise, the other Ace Attorney games happened beforehand, but then I remembered, oh right, Japan court in this game has no jury, so no, I'm right, just like old times. Look at me trying to course correct when I didn't even need to course correct. Well, that's just like the trial of the professor 10 years ago. Oh, I guess that works too. Kick the stool out from under my feet, why don't you, Miss Sato? A closed court. Good morning, my dear fellows. He got his hair fixed. Good. I don't think I can take another Ninja Fortnite or Redhead Sholmes. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you back. Mr. Sholmes! Have you made note of my hair, Mr. Naruhodo? An outright victory for science, you must agree. To be perfectly honest, so much happened yesterday that, well, I completely forgot about your little hair problem. Ha! What to one man is a little hair problem is to another a day of drinking dubious potion after dubious potion. That sounds unhealthy. You have no idea how much my stomach ails me this morning. Oh dear, how awful for you. I'm afraid you only have yourself to blame, Mr. Sholmes. And good morning to you, Mr. Reaper. I'm delighted to see you looking so full of vim. And you. I see London's celebrated great detective is as active as ever. Oh, you exaggerate, my dear fellow. Compared to my paltry engagements with a few trivial cases, the Reaper's overbearing presence is a far greater deterrent to the black roots of crime in our capital. And whilst I may not agree with your methods, there is at least one point on which I would readily commend you. What an honor, and what would that be? Your eye for a good lawyer, sir. Duh. Mr. Sholmes! After all, behind this lawyer there is a very great mind. My own. What are you trying to say? I wish only to say that you should be prepared for quite a trial, Mr. Reaper. sorry to barge in. Oh, hey, it's you two. Oh, Gina. Gina! Are you okay? I mean, are you as okay as you can be today? What's on her arm? It's a mourning band, I suppose. Father, shouldn't you be at the symposium? It's been postponed, so I have some free time. I decided to come along with the police inspector to see our country's up-and-coming students in action. Oh. I should be very interested to see the fruits of your studies over the past year. Well, it's an honor to have you here. Let's hope there are some fruits to see. Odo? Oh, yes, Gina? Why do you agree to this, eh? Why do you take him on? This Reaper bloke. Everyone says it was him what killed the boss. Liz, I know, but I'm sorry, Gina. I just don't believe that. Well, if it weren't him, then who was it? I don't know that yet. I don't care who calls him what. The Reaper's just a name. He's just a person at the end of the day. And if it turns out it was him what killed the boss, then God help him. Fiery eyes indeed. Yes, the culprit deserves every ounce of your loathing. Eh? At least that may be some solace to the deceased. Please, Odo. Get whoever did this for the boss. I'll do my best, cause I loved that man. Oh, Gina. Well, I mean, I didn't love him in the same way I simped for other characters, but like I appreciate his commitment to the grind, and he was also just entertaining, and like he was just even if his morals were a bit skewed in some certain trials, I could tell he had a good heart, and I miss him. I miss him a lot. I hate feeling this useless, but there's nothing I can do. So you've got to find who done this and make the rats pay.
Counsel for defense and defendant, call will be in session shortly. Make your way into the courtroom at once, please.
It's a different accent every damn time. All right, then. Here we go. It's time, Mr. Naruhodo. Lord Van Zeeks. Yep. Time for the both of us to, join forces, I guess. One who lost his treasured brother to a mass murderer. One who lost his treasured father in a foreign court of law. And one who lost the man who helped her escape destitution. All that misfortune, all that pain, on course to collide headlong in this trial. It's time to shine a light on all these dark events. And whatever truth is revealed, we're gonna have to look it straight in the eye. Oh boy, let's go! Alright, let's fucking do this. Ah, shit.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here to conduct a fair and just trial of the defendant, Beric Van Zeeks. Or is it Van Zeeks? I mix it up all the time. God, it doesn't matter. I know when I'm right. Causes for defense and prosecution. Are you ready to begin?
Defense is ready, my lord. Oh, fuck. You know, it's probably because like Van Zeeks is like the prosecutor we've seen like the most over the course of like, I'm gonna call it one game because 1 and 2 basically are one big game. But it's weird seeing somebody else here now that isn't like a Pain or Van Zeeks. But oh boy, the prosecution is more than ready. Oh, Kazuma-sama. I've been wishing to see you in court again for so long, it feels. But I never pictured it happening like this.
I need to keep my damn controller off the desk!
I never thought I'd be facing you behind the prosecution's bench.
The so-called Reaper of the Bailey has been a scourge like no other, undermining Her Majesty's justice system. Today, we must uncover the truth behind this scourge. In other words, this trial is going to be a lot more far-reaching than Inspector Gregson's murder. The truths revealed by these proceedings may have unpredictable repercussions through the judiciary. Accordingly, they are to be conducted as a closed trial with no members of the public present, by Her Majesty's direct orders.
How will that work, my lord?
The burden of all arbitration and adjudication falls on my shoulders. Therefore, as you will see, the juror's bench shall remain vacant today.
Sheesh. If no members of the public are present, might I ask who is currently occupying the gallery, my lord?
They are members of the judiciary, here to witness proceedings and ensure an equitable trial.
Members of the judiciary? Oh my, this is a very unusual trial already.
There is, of course, another unprecedented aspect to these proceedings on which I must elaborate.
Fair enough. Please, by all means, tell us everything we need to know.
The counsels for the prosecution and defense are both aliens of Great Britain.
Why'd you have to put it like that? I believe it takes an outsider to see the truth sometimes. And as I stand here in this courtroom now, I'm quite certain this is the reason why I had to come to Britain. Kazuma?
Very well. Let us commence proceedings. Prosecutor Asogi, your opening statement, if you please.
Certainly, my lord.
Damn, he got a long scroll. The incident took place on the 1st of November
at just after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. The location was a building of flats on Fresno Street on the outskirts of the city. The victim's body was discovered there in an old single-room rental property.
Yes, Inspector Tobias Gregson, a name known very well indeed to this court. Not least for his miraculous resolution of one of this country's grimmest cases 10 years ago.
The Professor case. How sure are you about the time of the incident? Several witnesses on the street outside heard the gunshots, and all have reported the same time. Yes, that's what Gina told us too. There are a number of witnesses. I have here a plan of the room. The victim was found curled up in one corner. It's believed that he was shot from the front at point-blank range and died instantly.
How has the range been determined?
There were scorch marks around the entry wound. Such marks are caused by the gunpowder used to fire the bullet. Hi, rubbish. Don't worry, we're just starting. You haven't missed anything huge. Kazuma do be looking fresh, though. He drippy. We're still in the establishing opening. You didn't miss, like, the big reveal like last time, so don't worry too much. But hi. Always happy to have you here. But powder hot enough to leave scorch marks is only ejected a few inches beyond the end of the barrel. In other words, it only happens when the target is at point-blank range. You know, it's funny. I was watching another like stream VOD earlier today with Phoenix Wright Justice for All, and they were also talking about scorch marks. I know it's like a common thing that they do in Ace Attorney games, but still, we haven't heard about them all throughout the rest of the game, so it's just like, huh. Also, I couldn't hear you on the phone. Damn.
I see, yes. Thank you for your detailed explanation, counsel.
The autopsy report saying the death was instant, resulting from a bullet shot at close range. I should probably check the court record. It's been a few days. The article, the Red-Headed League, it seems a bit... That's a bit sussy! There's the photograph of Mr. Vigil, who definitely has a fuckboy face. There's a letter of introduction. I don't think we're gonna need that, but there was like, it was on the back of a steamship ticket, I guess. Dismissal notice. Yeah, he got dismissed. For aiding and abetting from this prison, aiding and abetting the escape of that convict. There's also this framed photograph of Miss Vigil. the candelabrum, which was blown off. This had like a key thing. There's a wig, a revolver, this photograph. I miss him. And now the autopsy report, which I probably need to check just in case. Coroner, Maria Gori. Damn, they replaced Scythe like that. I can't snap, but like imagine like a snap sound effect, like that. I mean, of course they had to, but you know, it's like, damn. Victim was shot in the chest at close range from the front, resulting in instant death. Scorch marks at the point of entry. The bullet exited the body from behind. The caliber of the gun used matches that of the standard issue firearms from members of the judiciary. Yep. There's also that wig. And have you managed to ascertain the owner of this firearm? No, my lord. This is too British. I need to scale it back. No, my lord. Not conclusively. Bravo, Kazuma-sama. For not trying to use the gun as evidence when its provenance can't be proven. Furthermore, my lord, as I've explained, the revolver was fired at extremely close. I'm taking a drink. The revolver was fired at extremely close range. The bullet passed through the victim and struck the wall behind him. There's a candelabrum mounted on that wall, and the tip of one of the candles in it was found to have been blown up by the projectile. Oh, Halo Doggle. We noticed that too, didn't we? Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for your thorough report, counsel. The setting of the crime is all but clear to me. You will submit the plan of the crime scene as evidence, please.
As you wish, my lord. Where the body of the victim, Inspector Gregson, was found. Man.
Is this Fresno Street room Inspector Gregson's private abode?
No, my lord. That room is rented to a Mr. Hugh Boone. But there is precious little furniture inside, and it's generally in a poor state of repair. So what on earth was Gregson even doing there? Presumably, he was investigating some case or other, when a policeman was informed of the gunshot from the witnesses and rushed to the scene. He only found the deceased inspector and the accused standing alongside, holding the revolver. The attending officer arrested the accused on the spot.
So, the details of the case are clear.
In that case, the prosecution would like to call its first witness.
A name, please, counsel.
Naturally, the accused himself.
Lord Van Zeeks?
As a prosecutor, he believes in the oath of office he's taken and will be compelled to tell the truth.
Very well. Let the defendant take the witness stand. Oh, this is weird. I don't like this. Oh, God, it just doesn't feel right.
So, witness, state your name and occupation for the court.
Barrick Van Zeeks, Old Bailey prosecutor.
I presume, Lord Van Zeeks, that you heard Prosecutor Asogi's opening precis?
I did. It is alleged that you were found at the scene of the crime and that you were arrested by the arriving police officer. Can you confirm?
Yes, my lord. Then I'm sure that the court would like to hear you explain some things away. Namely, why you were there in the room on Fresno Street at the time in question. And what exactly took place.
I intend to explain away nothing. I will simply tell the truth. Hey, old British judge here. Just wanted to let you know that I learned how to beatbox.
Yeah. I can't fucking do it. Verbalace is on another level. But God, my voice does sound like that fucking voice, doesn't it?
I must say, Lord Van Zeeks, I never imagined this day would come. Or rather, I didn't want to imagine it would come. But since you became known as the Reaper, part of me has been dreading it. Your formal testimony then, witness. Sometimes I just go into the sort of, this really sensual judge voice. It really makes me uncomfortable.
The facts of the incident.
I was investigating Gregson, and my inquiries had led me to that address. When I first entered the room that day, it was dark inside and I saw no one. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around, stopped, and it double took 3 times. 1, 2, 3. and then I saw the revolver on the floor. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me.
That testimony was the whole truth?
It was.
So, you heard a shot being fired in a room with no living occupants. And moments later, a corpse somehow appeared before your eyes. Is that it? You're right, you haven't explained away anything. In fact, that would barely qualify as an excuse. Whew, damn.
I thought you were my mute apprentice. Yet it turns out you have a way with words, Prosecutor Asogi. It would appear to be a singular tale indeed. Singular isn't the word, it's laughable.
Jesus. Kazuma be like, I'm holding no punches today. I want this bitch incarcerated. Oh yeah, also that Edgeworth pose, damn. What's gotten into Kazuma? He's not behaving like himself at all.
Very well then.
Yeah, I didn't won one, I think. Yeah, but seeing it on the prosecutor's side really puts it into perspective that like, oh shit. I guess.
Counsel, you may begin your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord! Where do I begin? Oh shit. Oh no, it's weird. Oh, ow!
I was investigating Gregson, and my inquiries had led me to that address.
What were you investigating Gregson for? You were investigating the inspector? What on earth for?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Sorry?
I'd identified a distinct possibility that Gregson was involved in the case I was investigating. Regrettably, though, he was killed before I could secure the proof I needed. Is the court to understand, then, that on the day in question you followed the victim to the scene? No, I was privy to his movements in advance.
How?
I stole into his office in the yard and consulted his diary. The address on Fresno Street was noted in the 5 p.m. entry. You illegally entered the man's office. In Japan, that alone would constitute a very serious offense. As it does in Great Britain, I assure you. Is that not the case, Lord Van Zeeks? I stole his office, the whole thing, put it on the goddamn, what's it called? No, seriously, what was that thing in the third case? I'm blanking on the object name. Omnibus! That was the name. I swear I did not have a drink today. God. I called an omnibus, stole the whole office. It was a very big omnibus. I admit to the whole thing.
Oh my god, Van Zeek, shut the fuck up.
Is that not the case, Lord Van Zeeks? I was aware of the possible consequences.
So in summary, you were investigating the victim. And yet you refuse to tell the court why. I didn't realize British prosecutors enjoyed such freedom to choose what to divulge under oath. Why did I ever think I could defend this man?
When I first entered the room that day, it was dark and I saw no one.
I mean, we don't know about the quality of the lighting of the room beforehand, do we? I'd say that's fine to leave.
A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around, stopped, and I saw the revolver on the floor.
Hold it! So, who fired the gun?
I have no idea. I didn't see anybody else in the room.
But you say it was in the you say it was very dark in there?
Yes, that's right. All I can tell you is I didn't sense another's presence.
In line there was a candelabrum. I mean, you right, but like, aha! Then could it be that the gunshot actually originated from somewhere outside the room? The thing about that is, like, I don't know if that's substantial enough to present yet, because I just think back to the camera thing and I'm just like, oh god, maybe I should investigate stuff before I present.
No, that's out of the question.
Oh.
Without doubt, the sound emanated from inside the room. I could smell the gunpowder.
This is going from bad to worse. And you say that's the point at which you noticed the revolver on the floor? Correct. And I foolishly picked it up. That was carelessness on my part.
Presumably then, the gunshot you heard came from the firearm that you somewhat hastily took in your hands.
In point of fact, my lord, I do believe it did not. What? The barrel of the revolver I picked up was cold, and there was no smell of spent powder. But then, where on earth is the gun that was fired? Whilst I would like to oblige you with an answer, I'm afraid I can't. What is it with people and his attorney just picking up murder? I don't know! It happens so often, you would think they wouldn't! Rudon did it! Van Zeeks did it! Edgeworth did it on the boat! Himbos! The lot of you! Just as I picked up the firearm to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. Hold it! A man, you say? One of the witnesses, I presume. Call Van Zeeks a him. Okay, he's not a himbo, but that was a himbo moment. I hate to say it, but Van Zeeks is probably one. I mean, Kazuma notwithstanding, like before Kazuma came along, I would wager that Van Zeeks was probably the smartest man in this courtroom. In the courtroom, like regularly. I call it a stupid bits moment. That works too. That works too. One of the street merchants working on Fresno Street.
Who are these merchants?
A number of them had set up their stalls directly beneath the boarded view of the crime scene. Wait, merchant? What if I did a? No, that wouldn't work. No, if we actually, we'll see if we actually call the merchants to the stand. A match seller, a newsmonger, and a peddler. They're all giving statements saying they heard the gunshot. Without thought of danger, they ran inside to see what had happened. Yes, Gina told us about that yesterday, didn't she? I told you guys Van Zeeks is the only prosecutor, so that was a fucking lie, yeah. Just like how you also said, oh, you know, nobody between games dies, even though that was literally proven false with Giselle Brett. Liar! They burst through a door with some force, it would seem. I think the worst part is that I believed you, though. It's funny to lie. Okay, Kokichi. And almost gave me a heart attack in the process. But you're supposed to be the Reaper. The first man to come in immediately noticed the revolver in my hand and fled. I forgot about Giselle. Okay, fair enough. but like you were all like, LaDog will be like, nee, that was a lie. A policeman patrolling on Fresno Street heard the commotion and was able to arrest the accused shortly after the incident occurred. Anyway, the man's scream drew my attention in that direction. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. Okay. So, that's Lord Van Zeek's account. Do you have any thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? No. Head empty. Yes, mainly that doesn't ring true in all sorts of ways. Who fired the gun if there was nobody else there, and how did the corpses appear in front of him? So, you think Lord Van Zeeks is lying? No, I don't think that. I mean, if he was going to lie, it would be a spoiler if I gave a non-answer. Fair enough, yeah. Yeah. I would expect him to have come up with a more credible story, wouldn't you? Yes, I completely agree. I think he genuinely doesn't know what really happened himself. So we must do what we can. Oh god, don't. Oh god, my leg is like caught on a cable. Blah. We must do what we can to fill in the gaps. Yes, first and foremost, we need more information. We gotta get more information. But how? We need to press. Maybe present, I don't know. I was investigating Gregson, and my inquiries had led me to that address. I don't think we have any evidence for that, so it's fine. When I first entered the room, it was dark inside, and I saw no one. Bum, bum, bum. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around, saw the revolver on the floor. Did I press that? Since I picked up, I heard the man scream. It was the only event at the bot. Maybe I should press what I haven't. I think I pressed this. Did I? Have you ever been to the address before? Okay, no, we have not pressed that before. Okay. No, never. I only learned of the place as a result of my investigations into Gregson's activities. There was no light inside when I entered, so it was all but impossible to make out anything. But at 5 p.m., the sun would have only just gone down. Still would have been reasonably light outside. The room has a window, but it was boarded shut. Very little light found its way into the room from outside, so it was extremely murky inside. I wouldn't have noticed if their victim was already lying on the floor. There was no artificial light in the room, you say? You're quite sure? I'm quite sure that the part of the room where the body was found was very dark. I have a feeling there was a small lamp oil burning on the desk, though I couldn't say for certain. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. There is a small desk in the room just here. Yeah, I remember. There was an lamp oil on it, as well as the framed photograph. When I entered the room, I closed the door behind me and started towards the desk to investigate. And what did you find? Wow, lamp oil, rope, and bombs? This game has it all, yeah. Nothing, I never actually breached the desk. I heard the gunshots. What do you mean by that? In what way did the body appear? I honestly can't explain it, but it's the truth. As far as I was concerned, the body hadn't been there until that point, and then suddenly, there it was. Did you perhaps hear the sound of the victim falling to the ground just beforehand? At that moment, what I heard was the sound of the door flying open and the scream of the man who came inside first. It sounded a bit like a ah! Nothing more. I see. After the man fled, I examined the body. I was stunned to find that it was Gregson. Most curious circumstances indeed. How the inspector was killed or how his body seemed to appear out of nowhere, I have no idea. Objection. Oh! Surely the court has heard enough. My lord, the cross-examination has clearly revealed that the accused, Barrick Van Zieks, is lying on multiple fronts. Oh shit? New song? Oh no, it's... Oh god, it's the Cosma theme, but fucked up in prosecutor version. What is that supposed to mean? Good gracious, counsel. Defendant is lying, you say? In his testimony just now, he claimed that he failed to notice the victim's body because the room was so dark. That's correct? No, that's impossible. As proven by this candelabrum. Fuck. How does that prove anything? If you examine the tip of the long candle, you can sense it has been blown off by a powerful impact. One would assume that the projectile from the firearm passed through the victim and struck the candle. Candelabra. The problem comes with what you consider the other two candles, which are clearly of a different length. Can I just say, this game, like, makes use of leitmotifs in a way that I don't think Ace Attorney has really, like, done to this extent before, and I kind of love it. Yes, I can see that only the candle that appears to have been struck by the bullet is long. We could reasonably expect someone to have lit all three candles together, which begs the question of why only one has ended up longer than the others. That must be the I'm sorry, gay panic moment. That must be because that particular candle was extinguished when the others were still burning. That's right. When the candle was hit by the bullet, it obviously went out. But the other two candles would still have been burning, so the fact is, the victim's body would have been illuminated by the light still thrown by the candelabrum, and the accused claim that he couldn't see the body clearly contradicts those facts. Ugh. And now, to the next lie.
There's more? Stop, he's already dead!
The accused also claims never to have visited the scene of the crime before. That's the truth! In that almost empty room, the police discovered something very unusual. A board covered from top to bottom in the police documents and newspaper cuttings. Yeah, that's right, we saw it too. It goes without saying that the contents of the police documents cannot be divulged. However, they include a number of reports from various historical cases, the oldest of which was from 10 years ago. 10 years ago? This is starting to sound familiar. And there is a common thread linking all of the documents on that board.
Indeed? What is a common thread? Is this common thread, Counsel?
They all relate to cases prosecuted in court by Barrick Van Zeeks. That fucking smug look on his face, though, God. All of them? And furthermore, all those cases are ones in which the defendant was acquitted.
Good lord!
Interestingly, none of those defendants are alive today, because all of them have been sent to their graves by the Reaper. Oh no! In short, that dingy little room is the Reaper's secret hideout and his base of operations. The Reaper's hideout? And yet the Reaper would claim never to have been to his own secret hideout. No one would believe that. No, the truth is, we've been looking at this backwards.
Backwards? Explain, Counsel!
Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand.
What?
I thought we were going to a court trial, not the roast of Barrick Van Zeeks.
Order! Order! Very well, I hereby state the current opinion of the court. Barrick Van Zeeks is an outstanding prosecutor who has rendered great service to his country. However, it is with deep regret that I must concur with Prosecutor Asogi's contention that the defendant's testimony exhibits a number of stark inconsistencies with unknown facts. All I have done is state the truth as I know it. Kazuma's done a brilliant job as ever. He's drawing on his experience as a defense attorney to build his prosecution case, and it's formidable. Lord Van Zeeks, they're beating your ass in the QRTs!
Let them.
What?
Counsel, you will submit the board that you just showed the court as evidence. I believe it's to be fundamental in establishing the facts surrounding the Reaper's existence. Thank you, my lord. The notice board. Can we, like... My brain is fucking fracturing already. Can we examine that? There are details of a whole raft of cases dating back years here, aren't there? This paper from 10 years ago is browning with age, look. Out of interest, the most recent thing that appears to be this newspaper cutting here. Oh, it's the same red-headed league advertisement that Mr. Sholmes had picked out. And what do you remember? That there was a red hairpiece at the scene, too. Was Inspector Gregson an exponent of the red-headed league, then?
How can we help?
It is written. Okay, so that's it. Anything on the... what's that? This is why we always look behind. Oh, what's this? Mr. Naruhodo, look! Oh yeah, it's a smudge of some kind. In fact, it looks just like a handprint. And the color, that's blood, isn't it? Oh dear, how disturbing. There's a bloody handprint on the backside. I don't know what it means yet, but I don't like it. And now the prosecution would like to call new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses who saw events unfold on the day in question. Damn good thing Kazuma brought the whole ass noteboard, yeah. They were mentioned in the previous testimony too, if you remember. I just imagine like, hey Kazuma, can I see that corkboard for a second? Sure, he just fucking slides it across the fucking courtroom. Thanks. He just starts like, fucking Naruto just looks around it. Can Luigi please? Fuck. If that is Luigi's handprint. They were mentioned in the previous testimony too, if you remember. Yes, the street sellers who heard the gunshot and went running into the room.
Very well, lead the witnesses in. The defendant may step down from the witness stand.
Certainly, my lord. Isabella? Beppo! Oh no, he's broke! So, witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court.
Names? We don't use names. Far too fancy for the likes of us.
We're just free and easy, so we like live where we want to live.
She looks strikingly similar to Isabella from Leighton versus Wright. Or maybe that's just me not remembering Leighton versus Wright very well. But she looks similar. I know it's a coincidence, or maybe a reference, if it is. Or maybe I'm just full of shit.
I give them all a vacant stare as they walk down Fresno and spin a few words into a verse for them. Would I be right in assuming that all three of you make your living by selling wares on the street?
Everyone calls me gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits to passers-by, you know.
Jaunty little tidbits? Listen, I don't know. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about booba in the courtroom.
Got absolute smasher for you, sir. Right up your gunnel it is. 6 pence is the price and not a penny less.
Wait, you're actually trying to sell it to me now?
Oh, come on, sir. Don't tell me you're not interested.
Try the man.
Give him the money and see what it is.
Pay the man, counsel!
What? We're doing this? Alright, 6 pence it is.
You won't regret it, sir. Now I've got you listening ears on. Just between us, a young couple on Slate Street have just had twins.
Is that it?
No, that's not it. It's gossip, isn't it? It wants to spread. That bit's up to you in your mouth, of course. I've got more, you know. Want another juicy one? 6 pence a piece it is, if you're curious.
I am curious, yes. About what's going on just under that fat bottom lip of yours. Jesus. Oh no, you can't just... Well, I mean, you can think that, but you can't say it. Namely, the unusual bruise or whatever it is that's poking out from under your collar. Oh, that didn't even register for me, but I feel like that would have if I looked at him long enough. What about the next witness then? What name do you go by and what do you sell?
Me, I'm Venus. That's what everyone calls me. Funny, isn't it? I sell these lovely little fireworks to all the local school kids. 6 pence a pop. What do you say?
Is it gonna explode? Are we gonna have another smoke thing? It's Bella, but fucked up and evil. Kinda, yeah. You weren't exaggerating with little. Do they actually sell?
Oh yeah, the second years can't get enough of my Venus firecrackers.
Absolutely shocked me how much Rosso using Spamton as a layout. Yeah, when you miss the point.
Especially when I tell them if they get 100, they can blow up the school. You can't just say that!
Not the most savory of ideas, young lady.
What do you say then, eh? Want a pop with 6 pence for a pop?
Wait, what? You want me to buy one?
Tell you what, I'll let you in on a little secret. If you get 100 of them, you can blow up the whole court.
You can't say that! We're not at Dual Destinies yet. Try the woman.
Give her the money and see if she's right.
Pay the woman, counsel.
What, 600? Or just 6? Alright, I'll buy 1.
Lovely stuff. Right then, it's something a bit extra just for you. The Venus special, only 600 pence.
600?
It's 100 of my regular fireworks. Nothing little about that, is there?
And there'd be nothing little about the punishment if I blew up the Old Bailey either. Turns out we are not actually the descendants of Phoenix Wright. We are the descendant of Ted Tonate. And the last witness, what name do you go by and what do you sell?
Thinker me. Think all sorts of thoughts. I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think. I think. Because I stand there on the street, watching the world go on about me. They call me the Observator.
Get out of it, old man. Everyone calls you Sandwich and you know it.
What kind of... I can get Venus. Gossip I can understand as a nickname, but Sandwich? What the fuck? So you don't actually sell anything?
The problem shared is the problem have, as they say. I give advice, I do. I think what it means.
Sandwich boy. Ah, okay. Fair enough.
I don't actually sell anything now, come to think of it.
Pity.
No more purchases today, please.
Well, we have quite a cast here, it seems. Yes. Yes, we do. They conduct their business on Fresno Street from morning until night, my lord. And it is always in the same place, directly adjacent to the crime scene. I see, and thus they heard the gunshot, I suppose. Not only that, but they very bravely ran inside to see what was going on and witnessed the crime.
You will be beggared, I thought, just between us. I mean, we'll all be beggared, I thought, just between us.
Also, yeah, Gossip is just such a latent NPC design.
Venus de Milo, what am I to do? What a terrible thing I saw.
What I think is if all what we see is light and shadow playing with our eyes, is any of it real?
Very well. This court will now hear the formal testimony of these three witnesses now. You will describe in detail what you witnessed and heard at the time of the incident. Okay.
We saw the whole thing from start to finish, we did. Everything from the moment they went into the building.
It was less than a minute after the Reaper had gone inside that we all heard a big bang.
Seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip couldn't wait to go and see what had happened.
I ran to the room and there he was. The Reaper, gun in hand, standing over the dead body.
I was scared half to death, me, so I ran off to find a copper.
If these witnesses were there the whole day and saw everything, who did they see going inside the building? Why did I turn to Mickey Mouse? Only the victim, Inspector Gregson, and the accused, Barrick Van Zeeks.
I've seen pictures of the Reaper in the paper. I know what he looks like. And just between us, I love folk love stories like this. Maybe we've tidy some already.
But wait, the room was just one of several flats in the building. Someone from another flat could have done it. All those flats on Fresno streets are unoccupied. Damn it!
Of course they are. They're small, damp, and expensive to boot. Also dirty. They mention raggedy even.
The room in which the inspector was found is the only property in the building that's currently leased.
And we know the leaseholder's name, don't we? It's Hugh Boone.
The testimony of the court has just heard what it appeared to leave little room for doubt, yeah. It's becoming increasingly difficult to see how anyone other than the defendant could have committed the crime. No! Thank you for your candor, my lord. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed to cross-examine the witness. Yes, my lord. In a closed court like this without a jury, the judge is the only person whose opinion matters. I have to break down this testimony. Somehow. Maybe if I actually read it this time instead of acting it, I'll actually see a point that I can counter. It's a whole thing from start to finish. That's why your older brother is dead. Jesus. Everything from the moment they went in the building. It was less than a minute after the Reaper got inside that we all heard a big bang. Did Van Zeeks? I forget the time that Van Zeeks put in his testimony, but we don't have Van Zeeks' testimony as evidence anyway, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
Seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip couldn't wait to go and see what had happened.
I ran to the room and there he was, the Reaper gun in hand, standing over the dead body. He did pick up the gun, yeah. I was scared after death, so I ran off to find a copper. Alright, I think I know what I want to press. We'll start from the beginning. The whole thing from start to finish, everything from the moment they went into the building. When you say they, who do you mean exactly? Inspector Gregson and the defendant? Lord Van Zeeks?
I suppose so. The likes of us don't know the names of the high and mighty. But I'll tell you one thing, it was the old river that went in last, that's for sure and certain.
Just behind Inspector Gregson? Did they arrive at the same time as each other?
No, not at all. The first fellow must have gone inside a good 15 minutes before we heard a gunshot.
The victim arrived 15 minutes before? Are you sure about that?
Am I sure? Am I sure? Doesn't seem likely I've forgotten a fellow with bright red hair like that, does it?
Yeah, his hair really were red, weren't it? Redder than my flaming fireworks, even.
The fiery red mop still burns on the inside of my eyelids, that is.
Wait a minute, you're saying that the man was a redhead?
Weren't you listening, chum? I was a redhead. He had a big trunk with him as well.
But Inspector Gregson's hair isn't red, not by any stretch of the imagination.
It seems likely that the inspector you saw wasn't in fact Inspector Gregson at all, but some other third party. No, I hate to break it to you, but the witnesses are correct. What? Let's just have a look at this photograph of the victim taken this. No. I mean, it's kind of silly that he has the wig on, but God, I didn't want to see his dead body! Yeah, that's Inspector Gregson, all right. And a red hairpiece.
Ugh. Of course, we saw one on the floor and we investigated the scene, didn't we?
I still refuse to believe Inspector Gregson wore a hairpiece, though. So why on earth would he have been wearing something like that? The color does seem to suit the man, one might say. The photograph will be submitted as evidence. Please, counsel. There it is. Ah! And what became of the trunk that the red-headed victim was supposedly carrying? I was informed that no trunk was found at the scene. So it just disappeared?
What, do you expect us to have been watching the building every second, do you?
We definitely saw him in the dock going in, though. No question about that.
It was less than a minute after Reaper got inside, we all heard a big bang. Seems to be the quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip went inside first.
I read the room there he was. The Reaper, gun in hand, standing over the dead body.
So, then you were the first person to arrive on the scene. Is that right?
That I was. Kicked the door like a professional, I did. And yelled out, "What's going off here?"
I feel like the pop, I imagine the pop filter is like saving this voice. The voice I'm doing for Gossip. Because otherwise it would just be an indiscernible like chorus of just peaking the mic.
Lord Van Zeeks claims all he heard was a man scream, though.
And was it dark inside the room?
No, not dark at all. There were candles burning on the wall.
Really?
There was a fella collapsed on the floor. It's between us. It's the first thing I noticed when I got inside.
Ah, I see. Even though Lord Van Zeeks claims not to have seen any such lights on the wall.
Next thing I noticed was someone standing right beside the body.
The accused, Barrack Van Zeeks.
That's right, the pale-faced Reaper himself. I was a little shocked, I won't deny it. But I've never really been a coward. I stood my ground and gave that Reaper a cold hard stare myself.
Not Beppo, what do you have to say?
Excuse me.
You have something to add, Mr. Sandwich?
There's really nothing to me. Empty in the head I am. No thoughts. Head empty. Just two slices with no middle. A sandwich without the bread, one might say. Yep, that's me. So I don't know what you could want with me.
I think that maybe you just remembered something. Having heard Mr. Gossip's last statement, I mean. Well, what I think is, we're all nothings, really. We try to dress ourselves up as something else, but at the end of the day, we're all just street sellers.
That's enough out of you, Sandwich. Keep your trap shut now. This is why I'll make you into a real sandwich.
When he saw the Reaper, he fell clean over on his ass.
That's it?
Ah, Becca, I told you to keep that a secret.
He screamed, he did. Screamed and scrambled off on all fours. That's all I wanted to say.
Mr. Gossip, is that true?
The floor was dead slippery, that's why. Planted my head in a filthy pool of blood, did not.
Now wait just a second. I said wait just a second.
What? A pool of blood?
But listen here, when I was sprawled on the floor, I still kept giving that Reaper a cold, hard stare, and don't you forget it.
Let's just go back a little. Did you say you got blood on your hand?
I did, it happens to the best of us at times, doesn't it? So I was scared, so I slipped over. We'll just keep it between us, can't we?
No, Mr. Gossip. I'm gonna have to ask you to add that information to your formal testimony.
Oh, if I must.
The witness will amend his testimony to include the aforementioned details at once.
I slipped and got my blood on my hand, so I quickly wiped it off on the floor. Maybe there's a connection, maybe there's not. So you wiped off the blood from your hand on the floor of the room. Are you quite sure about that?
Well,
Okay, I'm mixing the voices now.
what else do you expect from me to have done, eh? Does it really matter?
The police found no such handprint on the floor during their investigations. What exactly is the defense asserting? If you'll listen, you'll find out, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, there was no bloody handprint found on the floor. What are you trying to say? There was a handprint in the blood left very clearly on the scene. On the back of this notice board.
Ah, yes, indeed. Indisputably a handprint in the distinctive color of blood.
Right, that's my right hand! I know it anywhere!
Objection.
The witness very definitely very definitely? What? The witness very definitely testified that he wiped his hand on the floor. Any handprints on the back of the board are irrelevant. Not if the board itself had fallen over onto the floor. In that case, it's quite possible for the witness's handprint to have ended up there. Just look at the floor plan of the room. The notice board was in the opposite corner of the room with the victim, and in an upright position. Even if it had somehow been toppled and was lying on the floor at the time, it would have been a considerable distance from the body.
I fell over when I came across the body. So I was basically right next to the corpse, on the other side of the room.
In other words, the defense's assertion is contradictory. Yes, it is. There's a very definite contradiction here, for which there must be a reason.
I take it that you formulated a proper hypothesis, counsel, regarding this apparent discrepancy between the witness's account and the handprint found at the scene.
I have, my lord. This discrepancy between the witness's account and the location of the handprint is explained by... It's either the board moving or false testimony. I didn't mean to open up the people thing. There's a lot of people in this case. My best friend, who I believe to be dead, he lost his memory somehow, but now materialized as a prosecutor in the British courts. Wait. Wait. No, it's probably a coincidence.
The real contradiction is the handprint itself, not where it was found. As the court can see, it's upside down. Good gracious, so it is! If the witness had put his hand against the board, the fingers should be pointing upwards. What does it tell us? It tells us one simple fact. When his handprint was made, the board must have been lying on the floor as I previously suggested. Which means that after the incident, it must have been moved. What?
Objection.
You're claiming that somebody moved the notice board after the shooting? And tell the court who? I don't know that yet. But the point is, when you consider all the testimony we've heard so far, we can now be very clear on one point. And that would be the position of the notice board at the time of the incident, my lord. So, counsel, I must ask you to clarify your assertion for the court. At the time of the incident, where do you maintain that the notice board was situated?
Like around here?
Take that.
This is the only possible location! Immediately adjacent to the doorway. If the court would think back to the testimony given by a defendant earlier, he said that when he entered the room, it was dark, and he couldn't see the body. If the notice board had been here, then the body would have been completely hidden from view. The light from the candles would have been blocked, making the room appear darker.
Objection.
But the accused also claimed that the victim's body simply appeared before him.
That's true. Or, in his precise words,
Just as I picked up the firearm to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. I don't know about calling it a scream, but he was talking about me, and no mistake. The accent's all over the place. 'Cause it was me that kicked the door open. If you look again at the floor plan, consider what would happen if the door to the room was thrown open with force. That can't. The door struck the notice board, knocking it over and making the victim's body visible. Good gracious! My client has told nothing but the truth. He has simply described what he saw. Order! Order! Counsel, how has this not come to light before now? After the incident, somebody must have righted the board and moved it into the position where the police, myself, and my colleagues saw it when investigating the room. Witness! What have you to say for yourself? What? Me, my lord? You and your fellows were there at the scene before anybody else. Because without saying that, you must have something about the position of the notice board. The witnesses in the stand will testify again. You will each explain exactly what you did upon arriving at the scene of the crime. Hey, stop looking over your glasses at me. I got the message. All right, new testimony. Let's go. I don't know anything about that there notice board. I just put a hand on it, that's all.
Don't look at me. I haven't got a clue about it. I was doing business with some second years at the time.
I don't know anything. I'm just a bystander, mate. Just a sign at the crossroads of life.
It was that Reaper, I bet. He's got a face that screams blood.
What? What the fuck does that mean?
I can't see how that changes anything anyway. Detective still died when we heard the gunshot.
So none of you can elaborate further. Useless. Fucking get out of the courtroom! Shaken by the crime they witnessed, and with only the light of a few candles and lamp oil by which to see, we can't expect these witnesses to be able to give a more precise account of what happened.
That's right, yeah. It don't pay to expect too much.
It's a man's endless quest for knowledge that's destroying the world. That's what I think.
Do you? Really? Really?
Yes. Yes, you call them steam hams. In any case, as this testimony shows, even if the notice board was moved by somebody following the incident, it makes no difference. When the gunshot rang out, the accused was the only person at the scene. In short, the only person who could possibly have committed this crime is Barrick Van Zeeks. None of this wrangling over the board changes that simple fact. Quite so, quite so. Does the defense still wish to cross-examine the witnesses despite the circumstances? Most certainly, my lord. Very well. Then proceed, counsel. Go on. Give me the tea.
I don't know anything about that there. That there Kirby! That there notice board. I just wiped my hand on it. That's how. I was about to say, how have I not done the deity voice in this game? But then I remembered, oh right, this is Britain. Well, don't look at me, I haven't got a clue about it. I was doing business with some second years at the time. When you say you were doing business with them, you mean you were selling them fireworks?
Yeah, what else? There's the Priory School just around the corner, see? Those cheeky little so-and-sos have got a plan to blow up their school to kingdom come.
Okay.
So I've been telling on them, letting their teachers know what they're up to.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I wouldn't want anyone to get hurt, so I let the school know the kids are playing with dodgy toys.
So you're playing both sides? You're supplying them with the means and then fucking ratting on them? Capitalism, yeah.
Then, praise the Lord, the teachers all take the fireworks off of them. And then, praise the Lord again, the kids all come back to buy...
Uh-huh. This is some fucking business plan you got here, lady.
Everyone's happy, see?
What a racket.
Of course. And sometimes the teachers give a little bonus to thank me for letting them know. It's a busy old life selling explosives.
Venus is a guileful goddess indeed.
Well, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing. I'm ever so good at it.
Excuse me.
Sandwich, what's up? Something wrong, Mr. Sandwich?
If I said it was, you would just leave it at that. And would that be the end of it?
No. Did Miss Venus's statement just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Something wrong, Mr. Sandwich is such a powerful line, yeah.
Philosophical thoughts. Deep philosophical thoughts. Let's say there was a great liar, and that great liar said without batting an eye, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing. I'm ever so good at it. Would those words of hers be a lie too, or the truth? In which case, she's not a liar. Oh, it's a hellish paradox, that one. Don't you think?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. But it seems like you're not... Seems to me you're suggesting Miss Venus has been lying. Are you?
What are you on about, old man? Trying to cause trouble, are you? Keep on like that. And I'll wrap your whole body in firecrackers and set them off. Judge, are we not doing something about this?
Isn't there like a rule against like threats like that in court?
That'll give you something to tremble about.
You have a startlingly disturbing mind behind that sweet and innocent face, young lady.
Nothing? Okay. We're just gonna let her talk like that?
At least Mr. Trevor didn't like threaten people with bombs. So Miss Venus has lied in her testimony. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Sandwich? Yeah, not in court. That's what I meant. Not in court, not in court. I meant to add that, yes.
Well, if it means I'll be burning in hellfire the rest of my days, so be it.
God, I'm sorry for laughing, but like, fucking, this line with the fucking name sandwich over it. God, I fucking love this game.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Can you elaborate, please, sir?
Oh, blabbermouth, he headed for the room where the gunshot seemed to come from. But there was someone else who crept up the stairs behind him, too. That's right! Rotten liar over there!
Do you mean to say that you did in fact betake yourself to the scene of the crime after all?
What'd I tell you, eh? I said I was good at telling barefaced lies, didn't I?
I don't think I like her very much, but I know damn well there's going to be a group of people who like this character. Not necessarily in this stream, but just always feels like there's Yes, you mentioned it.
Well, that revelation rocked the whole courtroom, didn't it?
Who knew firecrackers packed such a punch?
So you did indeed visit the scene of the crime, did you, young lady? Good grief!
Well, now you come to mention it. I suppose perhaps... I do clearly remember climbing the stairs to the room, yeah.
Also, that match was still lit. She's trying to burn the place down. Either you clearly remember it or you don't.
Well, I shall consider a fitting punishment for this perjurious
Perjurious?
Yes, perjurious act later. For the time being, you will immediately amend your testimony to reflect the truth.
Oh, yes, my lord. Of course. Maybe I did sneak along behind gossip and have a little peek into the room where it all happened.
You make a habit of lying, do you, Miss Venus?
Well, I suppose so. I don't really know, to be fair. If you want my advice, though, I take everything I say with a big pinch of salt.
All right, but you did in fact go to the room where the victim was killed on the day in question, didn't you?
Oh, please. As if I would. There's nothing, I can't think of anything more terrifying.
The truth, please.
Well, all right, just a bit then. I mean, a girl my age is curious about that stuff, you know.
Did you touch anything at the scene?
Oh, please, as if I would. I mean, there was a dead body on the floor.
The truth, please.
Well, all right, just a bit then. I had a look to see if there was anything I could sell. So I did give the place a once-over, but it wasn't nothing to write home about.
Right. Now, I hesitate to ask, but you didn't move the notice board by any chance, did you? I like how half of the time my Bruno voice is just done with this shit.
Oh, please, as if I would touch anything like that. Just a few bits of loose change is all I had.
The truth, please.
Well, all right then. I thought there might be something worth having underneath it. So I blasted the flipping thing. Sorry, flipped the blasted thing.
You're telling us a shrimp fried this right? No. You did move that board?
I think that did slip out, didn't it?
What? You daft bong pot!
I don't believe it. The girl doesn't think.
I'm sorry. I don't know why that got me. So did you find anything then? Something that you might have taken, perhaps, to sell?
Oh, please, I should be so lucky. In my imagination,
The truth! Now!
I might have found this old pocket watch under the notice board, I suppose. But a bit of junk like this can't be worth much if you Ah! So it was you, was it? You're the one what took it.
Gina? My girl. Young lady, may I remind you where you are?
That watch there. That was a present to Inspector Gregson from the yard for a big case he solved 10 years ago. The professor case, no doubt. The boss used to wind up every evening without fail when he was waiting for his grub to come at the pub.
I see.
I swiped it off of him once and blimey he was upset. Gave me a right earful. Since he said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years polishing it and winding it.
Also, this is not a criticism. This is just some, I mean, not a criticism of this game in particular. Just sort of like in general, I guess. We always hear about these events that happened like years ago. But like we never get a good look at them. I'd say the closest we got to like a good look at one of these events was the DL6 case. And that was just like Edgeworth's little flashback thing. I mean, not that we really need it, I guess. But you know, would be neat. Would be neat to see.
Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did.
Possibly not the best thing to go diving for then.
It's not all that, though. I took it to Jabez's that night to ask how much it was worth. The old dealer wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't give me a penny for it, said it wasn't working. Knocked about and worthless. Duh! I knew I should have lifted it.
That watch must be submitted as evidence at once.
Oh, please, just so long as you promise to give it back when we're done. Not a chance. I'll swipe it from you if you try to get your grubby mitts on it again.
That's enough. And the watch to the bailiff forthwith. Now, children, watch your manners. How old is Bruno again? Good lord! The glass appears to be broken. More than likely it shattered when the inspector was shot.
It doesn't tick anymore either. Which is why Jabez didn't want it. What a waste, huh?
Yes, indeed. It appears to have stopped at the hour of 5. Exactly when the gunshot was heard then. Man, every fucking time these clocks wind up stopping when people are murdered. Every fucking time. You come on down and we'll shovel your face full of shit.
Which supports the prosecution's claim, of course.
It's no longer ticking and the glass over the face is cracked. Well, it would appear that the mystery of the moving notice board has been solved at least. And as predicted, it has very little bearing on the case. Continue with your cross-examination, counsel. Pause. Wait! Oh my god, I know that shape.
There's a tiny little keyhole here. Can you see? Oh yes, that's probably for the winder used to wind up the mechanism.
That's a little unusual, don't you think?
Guess you need just the right key to wind it, I imagine.
Why do I feel as though I've seen something a bit like a key that's about the right size to fit into this hole?
It would be wonderful if we had the key. Let's check carefully over what we've already found.
I wonder. Hey, this attorney's an exercise mind how many items can be clocks. Can't find anything out. Wait, no, it was up here, wasn't it? Helmet is planning on the lower right.
Ah! It's tiny though. It can't be a key for a door. Perhaps this key could be the key for Inspector Gregson's watch? Oh yes, it could be. Let's try it at once. There's not a moment to lose.
Oh, I do love seeing evidence interact with one another.
I knew it. A perfect fit. An exception to the rule. And look, the inspector's watch has started going again.
So it has obviously just not been wound up, that's all. What is it, Mrs. Sato?
Well, if the watch isn't actually broken after all, I feel like it could have profound implications.
Like what? Gregson isn't dead?
No, he's dead. It's not always symbolism, Naruhodo.
She's deep in thought now. Perhaps I better start thinking deeply too. Having wound it up, it started ticking again. The Reaper. I can't see how to change things anyway. The detective still died when we heard the gunshot. But wait, yeah, because... Yeah, wait, no, I'm on the right track, though, because if the time didn't stop... When the gun was... I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case.
Oh.
At the scene, we found this key to the winder of that pocket watch. A key? And having found the pocket watch, we discovered that it, in fact, still works. You see, the watch didn't stop because it was broken at all. And that fact completely undermines one of the most fundamental premises on which this entire case has been built. What?
Order! But counsel! The watch has stopped though. It's exactly 5 o'clock.
Yeah, which is just when we had that gunshot.
It is exactly the hour. The time that was showing on the watch tells us nothing other than when it wound down. It's merely a coincidence that it happened to be at 5 o'clock. Hey, Pokey.
Objection.
Buddy, even if that's true, the 3 witnesses here all heard the gunshot at 5 o'clock. Oh yeah, you missed when Cosmo was roasting the ever-loving shit out of Van Zeeks. You would have loved it. So that's obviously when this crime was committed. No, that doesn't hold! Why not? Recall what Inspector Lestrade said only moments ago. Did somebody clip it? No, but I probably could later. The boss used to wind it up every evening without fail when he was waiting for his grub to come at the pub. Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did. The victim was in the habit of winding his watch once a day in the evening. We can reasonably assume, therefore, that he would wound the timepiece on the evening before he died. I'll be sure, if I remember, I'll clip it, don't worry.
That would be entirely reasonable.
But if that's the case, you wouldn't expect the watch to have completely wound down by 5 o'clock the following day.
No, well, how do you explain it then?
In summary, the evening before the day of the incident, when the gunshot rang out in that room, the inspector was already unable to wind his watch. You can't mean. What would stop a man from winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single evening for 10 years? That obvious answer is that he was already dead. Ow.
Order! Counsel, that is the most extraordinary claim.
Extraordinary isn't the word, it's absurd. You claim he was already dead the night before? Do you really think Scotland Yard's coroner would have overlooked something like that? Yes, actually. And in fact, I think maybe that autopsy report of yours. No, let's not flip the script on him. Yes, the taxi driver's back, and he's also broke. It makes me feel very sad. He didn't do anything wrong, but now he's like broke and on the street. Or at least that's the implication. On that subject, there is something very surprising. There's actually an omission in the coroner's report. One could say that the autopsy report was outdated, maybe? The time of death is not noted. That's right! Wait a minute, you're forgetting my legs went from under me when I kicked the door in. What do you mean? Like I said, I planted my head in a dirty great puddle of blood. He technically did. Okay, right. Nobody was exactly morally like spotless in that case, but like he just needed some pay. He just needed to live. He was living his life. Yes, so the victim's blood hadn't dried. It was fresh. He catches on fast, doesn't he? But that blood could be explained a number of ways. Could have been put there afterward. Some fresh blood could have been poured over the victim's body after he... Was my learned friend
Ow.
Think that fresh blood is available on every street corner? Duh!
Well, it needn't necessarily have been human blood, of course. We've been told previously that Scotland Yard has no way to identify blood as human.
Oh yeah, Lip Man is very latent-y. Yeah, that one's very latent-y and not in a weird way. it made me struggle how to think of a voice for him.
The problem is currently being researched. At present, you are correct. It is beyond our abilities.
So then a chicken's blood could have been used for example. Naruhodo, I get that you're just using like I get you're just using like a hypothetical here, but where the fuck did you pull chicken from? Why a chicken exactly?
It's certainly a possibility that wasn't the inspector's blood.
Objection.
Objection! But the gunshot was heard at 5 o'clock that afternoon. That's beyond question.
Is it, though?
What? Given that the time of death for the victim has already been called into question, it isn't beyond the pale or the realms of possibility that what these witnesses heard wasn't a gunshot at all.
Oh, please, what are you trying to say?
I did not know what we had, and it was a loud bang that came from that there room.
Now you listen to me! A street seller's hands are his livelihood.
I don't doubt your ears, sir, but you can all state with certainty that you heard a noise.
Explain yourself then, counsel.
A noise that sounds like a gunshot could have been made... Wait just a second. Did I examine this, by the way? I probably should. Have you had an idea, Mr. Naruhodo? You're staring at the end of a string of fireworks. Sorry, it's just that it's the Venus special. I was wondering what 600 pence worth of fireworks would sound like.
Shall we find out?
What? But she said it could blow up the courtroom.
All right, that was a fairly sizable bang. My ears are still ringing, Mr. Naruhodo.
It sounded almost exactly like... I don't know, it sounds like a gunshot to me. No, I think it's more of a sound of a car starting up. No, it's obviously firecrackers. But this time, it really was firecrackers. Something like this. The culprit could have set off one of these to fake a gunshot.
Good gracious, the very fireworks that are sold by the witness?
Now, hold on 1 minute. Are you saying I did it? My pretty little firecrackers only make a little pop anyway. See?
Not 100 of them together. The Venus special that you sell for 600 pennies sounds like this. As the court can now attest, it sounds very much like a gunshot, in fact.
Duh!
You're trying to suggest that somebody set off one of those fireworks off at the scene? I'm suggesting that somebody knew the defendant was in the room at 5 that day and sought to implicate him by creating a sound like a gunshot for these peddlers on Fresno Street to hear. Objection. But even the accused himself has testified that he saw no one else in the room at the time. Whether it was a gun or firecracker, the only person present to cause that bang was Barrack Van Zeeks.
One whiff of a match and my firecrackers go pop. See? It's why people like them.
I fear for your fingers, young lady.
Recently, during my time here in Britain, I've learned of a very useful invention indeed. Something called a time bomb. Oh yeah! I was about to ask when, but then I remembered, oh yeah, Drebber.
Good heavens, a bomb?
Yes, a device that allows you to blow up whatever you like, whenever you like.
Mr. Naruhodo, I worry that your unfortunate phrasing there may have led to yet another international incident.
No, wait, it's the whenever you like part that's important. A time device.
Yes, exactly! A time device!
Something of that nature could have been planted at the scene. A device that was able to produce the sound of a gunshot long after the culprit had left.
Your extravagant claim will have to be substantiated with evidence, counsel. What proof do you have to suggest that in any way a time device was employed to create the gunshot sound?
Fuck, wait, do I? Let's examine everything, I guess.
Hell yeah, Poke, do that.
What proof do you have to suggest in any way that a tiny device was employed to create the gunshot sound? Maybe? Maybe?
Take that!
It's the only thing I can think of currently. As the course already discussed, the tip of one of the candles in this candelabra have been blown off. Indeed, because it was struck by the bullet, which presumably passed through the victim. I don't think that's possible, my lord. Not possible. Why? Because of the scorching. There are gunpowder scorch marks clearly visible on the broken candle. There are? Goodness! Yes, there are! But is it not the case that they're also scorching on the victim around the bullet entry wound? That's right, there was. But as we heard earlier, scorching like that only occurs when the target is at very close range. Aha! A matter of centimeters from the gun. Which means that the scorching on the candle can't possibly be the result of a gunshot. You're suggesting it came from the fireworks? How could that be, yeah? The fact that there is such visible scorching on the candle suggests that the fireworks must have been right next to it when they exploded. Or to put it another way, the candle and firecrackers were joined together. The culprit somehow attached the firecrackers at a point partway down the candle. After the killer had left the scene, when the candle slowly burnt down along with the other two, until eventually it ignited the fuse of the firecrackers, generating a loud bang. I mean, it's a good theory. And that is how these three witnesses came to believe they'd heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock. Well, what a plot. And this implies that the victim could have died earlier than we've led to believe, the previous day even. Now, hold the horses. I just like saw the victim going into a building, remember?
I couldn't forget that flame-colored hair, even if I wanted to.
The person you saw entering the building wasn't the victim at all. Consider this. Obviously, anybody can wear a wig. So the person that these witnesses saw entering the building 15 minutes before the incident occurred easily could have been someone else entirely wearing the red hairpiece. Someone else? Do you mean to say... It was the same person who contrived the firecracker trick. In other words, Inspector Gregson's killer! Damn, I don't think we've ever had a prosecutor like up and laugh at us before. Kazuma, buddy. Oh, very impressive, Ryunosuke Naruto. Kazuma? I'm really quite amazed you've come this far. But after all, wasn't I the one who told you? Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry, I just blanked on that. I don't know how I could. Blackquill's my beloved. Wasn't I the one who told you that you had all the makings of a great defense lawyer? I also noted the lack of a time of death in this report, a stark omission. But as far as I'm concerned, the whole country's justice system leaves a lot to be desired. Order! Order! Prosecutor Asogi, what on earth do you mean by that statement? I hear that many of the leading members of Britain's judiciary are present to observe this trial today. So we cannot allow even the slightest doubt to be overlooked. He's got a point, but the defense's assertion about the time of death based on the victim's stopped watch is just conjecture. But while the possibility exists that my learned friend may be correct, we have a duty to explore it. Well, certainly I would agree with you. And what immediately comes to mind is, of course, what was Inspector Gregson doing? And where did he go on the day before the incident? Do you know? The inspector always carried out his investigative work alone. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard.
Even within the yard?
However, considering the evidence we've been presented with so far, I'd say it's fairly apparent what case the man was pursuing. Wouldn't you, my learned friend? I do have a feeling about what case he might have been investigating. Yes, I agree. Surely. My lord! The defense believes it can explain to the court the case that was being investigated by Inspector Gregson at the time of his death.
Very well, counsel. Present your argument. What evidence is suggesting the case of being investigated on the inspector the day prior to the incident?
My only thought is the redhead article.
Take that!
I was also like, yeah, learn friend. We've been friends. We were friends. What happened? I believe this red hair piece points to the answer. We might assume that it was part of a disguise used to carry out an undercover investigation.
Surely not. Such a brightly colored hairpiece would only serve to make the inspector more noticeable.
Yes, that's quite true. It would definitely have made him stand out in a crowd. Except that is, in a crowd of gentlemen from the Red-Headed League.
The Red-Headed League?
So, you've already worked it out.
What on earth is this all about? Is there such an extraordinary league of gentlemen?
The Red-Headed League is currently under investigation for a grand deception.
A deception of what nature, counsel?
They've been targeting red-headed men across all of London and tricking them out of small sums of money. 2 men were arrested for the misdemeanor only yesterday, in fact. My lord! The defense calls for those 2 men to be summoned at once.
2 redheads?
2 of them. Inspector Gregson clearly infiltrated the Red-Headed League using this hairpiece. It's just how lawyers talk to each other. I guess. I mean, yeah, he's not calling me, I was gonna say something, but I'll just say he's not calling us, what Baron Van Zeek's called us as well. He's not saying Nipponese, so I was gonna phrase it in a certain way that makes it, So it's very likely he had direct contact with these criminals. It's just only slightly passive-aggressive. Fair enough. And it's quite possible that such contact led to more serious events.
I concur that we cannot in good conscience leave this new avenue unexplored.
Well done, Mr. Naruhodo.
Well, it's another possible line of inquiry for us at least, yeah.
The prosecution will take immediate arrangement for the charged men to appear. Bring these 2 red-haired league conspirators before me, Prosecutor Asogi.
At once, my lord. Is Cosmo the Edgeworth? I mean, I'd say so. He does the similar pose where he puts his fingers to his forehead like Edgeworth did. So I mean, it's definitely in reverence or something like that.
Very good. We'll have a 30-minute recess. Court is adjourned. Get out of here. Go take a deep breath and think about what you've done. And by what you've done, I mean get further to the truth. You glorious bastard, Naruhodo, you.
Actually, we're not even close to a verdict yet. What the fuck am I talking about?
Oh, I need to lay off the vodka.
He also had the same disbelief sprite. Oh shit, yeah. I didn't realize. I guess because his eyes weren't as sunken as Edgeworth's were. That's why it didn't register for me. Herlock and Gina!
Oh, there you are, Odo.
What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Gina?
You sure about what you saw in there? That the boss, actually died the day before? It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes, I was shocked by the revelation too, Gina.
Shit, yeah, you're right. Defense attorney to prosecutor. Just like how, before the incident, both Asogi and Edgeworth had an incident that changed their leanings, yeah.
I was shocked by the revelation too, Gina.
As was I. Possibly more shocked than both of you. It's not a competition, Mr. Sholmes. I was more shocked than all of you put together. This is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes, it's strange there's no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps it was a deliberate omission.
Oh dear. If it was deliberate, it puts me in mind of the last case we worked on, and Dr. Scythe.
I know. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Van Zeeks discovered his body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League. So perhaps something happened with them. Come to think of it. You had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Mr. Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick. No. Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuth hound interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. And that scent masked the underlying sense of deception, I suppose. The two criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested, aren't they? In Mr. Sholmes' suite, I mean.
That's right, Suze, and it was me what took them in. Thanks to a tip-off by a good law-abiding citizen.
Indeed, yours truly. So it's going to be that pair in the witness stand next, is it? Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Redhead League yet, had you? Why would the inspector have been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that Gregson's own sleuth hound interest was piqued by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income.
Don't tar 'em with the same brush as you, Sholmes.
Yes, well, and there's the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Lord Van Zeeks for some reason. The Reaper, the Redhead League, Inspector Gregson, Lord Van Zeeks, and Cosima. Duh. I feel as though he knew we'd arrive at this point somehow. Gosh, I think you're right. What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. This recess will be over very shortly. Yes, you're right. Cosimo was determined that he should be the one to prosecute this trial, and he was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is it that he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling that we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. Are you ready then, Mr. Sato?
Yes.
Let's go. It's foreplay, Ryu. Shut up. Zixie! Can I call you Zixie? No. Okay, Barrick. Are we on a first name basis? Sure. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed court's hearing of Barrick Van Zeeks, here present, who now stands accused of murder. I mean, who stands accused of murder? It's not now. Bitch has been standing accused of murder. Come on. This old brain, I swear. Now then, Prosecutor Asogi. My lord. Have you summoned the witnesses as requested? Yes, the two members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. There's only one thing more sexually charged than two lawyers working together on a case. Two lawyers working against each other on a case. You right. You right. They arrived not long ago from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. Bailiff, usher the two men into the courtroom. Oh yeah, I recognize these two from the beginning. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I know they were saying that. I know they said before, but like, you know, seeing the designs again, it's all coming together. These two men are currently being held by the police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may admit your occupations, but state your names now for the court.
I am Fabian de Rosso, a descendant of the great de Rosso family from Nice in France. And my name is Peppino de Rossi. I am the third son of the great Familia de Rossi, the landowners from Napoli.
The two men first became acquainted at a boarding school for European nobility.
Those who graduate from Temzik are the future leaders of Europe.
I was about to say, is that a motherfucking Ghost Trick reference? But no, Temzik is a very common name, Perry. But Shu Takumi worked on both!
But, do you have any idea how boring it is to be born with noble blood? Alors, I make it my mission to get the better of the world by employing little gray cells of my brain. That is all I'm trying to do.
So, that's the only reason this whole grand deception you've been carrying out?
Oui, you could say that. Not bad, eh? He has the grand ideals, but the petty plans. This strange combination is in the charm of the hilarious brothers. Si, capo?
Listen to me, Peppino. I have two things to say to you.
Che? Are you about to tell me one of your grandi anecdotes? Evviva!
I'm sure. I'm sure. Nobody here, but at some point somebody's gonna be like, "God, you're offending me with these bad fucking accents," and I'll be like, "Yep, you know, I can't do any better." Well, I could, but my schedule's too busy for me to learn. Firstly, I want you to stop calling me this capo, and secondly, we are not the hilarious brothers. This is serious business.
Che bello! There it is, the capo's trump card, the furrowed brow. It is deep, capo. Capo, the furrow in the meaning of your words.
The court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Wubba-dubba-dubba, is that true?
Oui, c'est ça.
And what exactly was the nature of this deception by which you planned to defraud?
Alors, I will explain it. No, capo! Leave it to me! As you see, we both have the vivid red hair, no? At school, we were teased for this without pity. The capo here, he was many times behind the schoolhouse crying like the Trevi Fountain. Hey, those dogs one day, they well will respect us redheads. Every night, he would bury his head in his pillow and weep for the injustice. C'est bien, Peppino, enough. I will explain the rest. The first step was the newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, we listed the same notice in every paper in London.
Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe. Entitled to the Red-Headed League.
Oui, c'est ça.
I am honored that you have seen it. It states the only condition for joining the league is having flame-colored hair. Now, if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the league, you could receive a weekly income of £4. On the date specified, red-headed hopefuls gathered in droves at a park specified in the advertisement. And from each person present, this pair took an application fee of 5 shillings. And with the money, to France! It was a plan most elegant. No? No, it was most dishonorable. But to be frank, I'm stunned anybody was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick. The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk like a coster's orange barrow. And the day on which those men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, those two men spoke face-to-face with every single person present that day. Oui, I have seen more red-headed people in one day than I would see in the rest of my life.
See, and now every time I see the capo's hair, I feel sick to my stomach.
Anyway, why have we been summoned here today? Sorry?
The date for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told.
Naturally, neither of these men have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph.
Very good. So, Mr. de Rosso and Mr. de Rossi, you'll now give your formal testimony for the court.
Non-frugal tenants. God.
On the subject of the gentleman pictured in this photograph.
Of course, we are always ready to help with the law.
What am I talking about? I'm a lawyer.
We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assembled in the park on Lime Street that day. But I don't recall the man in this photograph, capo? No, I don't remember him. Obviously he is dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park. Allora, this victim is nothing to do with us.
You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault that we got caught in the first place. You've given a sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain? Oui, I am quite certain. We did not interview this man.
Nobody looking like this came to the park. This I can promise.
It must be noted that you have been arrested for a grand deception. However, accordingly, the court has little confidence in your assurances.
Ugh, with this attitude, we get to nowhere, huh?
He's really a sulkin now.
This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated before the incident, the day before. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover.
Ah, I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event in the park on the day in question, eh? That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
There's no question that Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League. Which means it's quite possible that that's when he was killed.
Very well, cross-examination. You know how it goes. Yes, my lord.
We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assembled on the park in the Lime Street that day. I don't recall this man in the photograph.
He doesn't look at all familiar. Nothing? Nothing ringing a bell?
I mean, that Luigi-type beat fashion statement? Come on. No, I don't think so. And this is a wig, guy. He was trying to trick us. I do not like the people who are trying to trick other people.
Says the con artist. If between them they interviewed 1,000 people with red hair, it would be unreasonable to expect them to remember every face.
No, senor. I may be small. My memory is very large. I never forget a thing. In my opinion, I do not think this man was in the park.
But he's not going to give the court a definite, it seems.
Eh, Capo? You didn't see a man like this, huh?
No, I don't remember him, and obviously he is dead now. But I assure you, he was not in the park.
But according to what you said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day.
Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the end of the day. Surely then you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain that this particular man wasn't present?
Normally the red hair is very distinctive, eh? I just completely lost the accent and now it's going into British. Oh god. But not when you have 1,000 redheads crowding around, then it's just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could have given us, maybe we would recall.
That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember him. We are sure of that fact. Oh. If there was a man with a red hairpiece, but his mustache did not match the color, then I do not think I could have forgotten him. Customer said these two had only been shown that photograph, and they'd been told nothing else at all. What if I just fed them one other detail about the victim? For example, his profession, his fish and chips. I know that's not the way we're supposed to go, but I want to do that one. I could certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation. What if I told you that the man was always munching on a packet of fish and chips? Do you remember a man who was eating incessantly? Not really. I was only looking at the heads of the applicants. I wouldn't have noticed the fish and chips any more than the caviar and smoked salmon.
Oh, the spaghetti! Me, I love the spaghetti.
Really? I had no idea. Tell them again what you said before, Peppino.
Si, Capo, si. I say it again and again.
Alright, let's load. His profession. I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember, but what if I told you that the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective? The man in the photograph a detective? Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper, suspicious, and decides to investigate incognito.
Sorry, but this changes nothing.
Excuse me.
Something to add, Mr. De Rossi?
Si. I am always adding something. Parmesan, olive oil, pepper.
What I mean is, did you not agree with your friend's last remark by any chance?
What did he just say about the detective?
Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. You have said enough already.
But why, Capo? What is the problem?
I feel like I'm leaning way too hard into this, and it's making it just... the voice, it's just making the voice, like, unbearable.
There was the man who said that I am an inspector from Scotland Yard.
What? Good lord! Oh, he's tiny.
Order! Explain this volte-face in your testimony, witness.
It's simple. A man who was at the park said to us that he was an inspector.
There was no such man. What are your ages, by the way, if I can ask? 25 and 26. Okay, fair enough. We never got their ages, though. I can't believe these two are adult men. Yeah. I don't want to, I mean, I don't want to rag on, De Rossi for his, his height, of course. But, like, especially at that height, I can't believe he's 25. There was no such man.
Madai, what are you saying, Capo? Have you forgotten, I
have forgotten nothing. Nobody likes this going and came to the park. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I just keep repeating syllables in the back of my head, and it's like a record. It's like a live record scratch. Yeah, the face too. De Rossi looks so baby. What the fuck?
Basta, Capo, basta! You beat me at many things, but not two. The memory and the meals. Like I said, when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is faster.
But you are inferior to me in every other way. So shut up! The damage is done.
Indeed it is, sir.
There was a man who came to the park, and he said he was an inspector from Scotland Yard.
I feel like this voice is way too sinister for him. Unless he is the culprit. He kind of has that look about him, doesn't he?
However, I look nothing like the man in the photograph.
He was someone I doubt he actually is. I feel like these two are just here for more evidence or whatever. How can you be so sure?
Because, to start with, his face was completely different.
See, it's true. The man who came was younger. His face was clean shaven, his eyes were sadder, his chin was thinner.
No resemblance whatsoever, then.
Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I took the obvious precaution and said to him,
somewhere between I was going to say it's very Shakespeare-esque, and maybe that's why I'm thinking it probably won't be. But my suspicions are raised a little.
If you really are a detective, show us the proof. See, it's a Capo here. He doesn't take no nonsense, eh?
But he was well prepared. He said he had identification.
Identification? You mean official police inspector's identification?
That is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord. Counsel, no incognito inspector would offer his identification for inspection. It's quite out of the question.
Judge? Judge actually saying stuff? Okay. Yeah, I know he's done that. I know he's done that a few times throughout this game, but it always catches me off guard when he actually, like, brings up a point instead of just reacting. Definitely. Why would he expose his true identity?
Clearly the papers were fake.
Certo, Capo, you're a genius. As we say in Italian, it takes a thief to recognize another, eh?
And what happened after he announced he was a detective? He became very annoying. He said you're under investigation. So I took his papers from him and chased him out of the park.
He was fantastico! And look, here is the identification.
So you stole it from the man.
He had it coming!
Why is it always like the dumbest lines that get me? God, he had it coming.
He made us very scared. He was not who he said he was.
Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector would. However, I believe it would be prudent for these identification papers to be added to evidence. Gimme.
But I like them.
Now, let's return to the witness's testimony.
Can I examine his identification, by the way? This victim has nothing to do with us. Metropolitan Police warrant card. I can't find anything on a place. Huh. Well, I suppose we should see what this inspector's identification looks like. I can't, oh right, I can't read. Yeah, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it? Out of interest, what name is given? Probably just some plucked out of the air. It's Tobias Gregson. Wait, what? The Scotland Yard insignia looks genuine to me. But how? And the department and identification number details are all correct as well.
Since when have you known those?
Do you mean to say...
I know it seems incredible, but yes. I think this is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard.
But that's unbelievable! This is the real thing after all? Okay. The genuine article. Wait, why did I back out?
Objection.
I wonder if I could ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Miss Lestrade? Why Miss Lestrade? What is your intention here, counsel? Is this really a fake, or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves.
Objection.
Don't be ridiculous. No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her or their identification to be stolen.
Hold it! That is the boss's! No question about it!
It can't be! As I suspected. The undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed Lee's enrollment on the day in question was the real Inspector Gregson, carrying out an incognito investigation! Zotalor! Fall on your ass. Order! Order!
But if the boss had his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away. I mean, he was always on me about it. If you lose something, report it at once, he'd say.
Could it be, then, that the inspector was physically unable to report it?
Physically, what are you saying, huh?
Unable to? You're not suggesting... Yes, it's quite possible that he was killed before he had the chance to report his identification stolen. No! Damn, get him! Order! Order! The defense posits that the victim was killed the day before his body was discovered at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that?
I know nothing! I know nothing!
Put yourself together, Peppino. Mon Dieu, you can behave a little more like a master criminal than that, no?
Now I wish I returned to Italia!
Yeah, I'm just leaning into being annoying now. Just stop crying, Peppino, please. Otherwise,
No, man, stop your whining and start talking!
Well, I believe the court will need to hear your story and consider it great in detail.
I know nothing! I done nothing!
But you will tell everything, or face the worst possible outcome. You will dry your eyes and testify again about these identification papers and the precise circumstances under which you came by them. For crying out loud. Alright. The truth is, we took him prisoner. I kept him for the night in a secret hideout. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case.
We took the man's identification from him and shut him in the room next to ours!
There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go.
He spent the night in a nice room. It was nothing like prison, really.
Uh-huh. This is outrageous! You imprisoned the man!
But no, see, no! It was not like a prison. He was a very comfortable and a calm and a happy. Eh, Capo?
It was never part of my plan. I swear it!
So you think it was my fault, eh? Because I got the date of the ferry wrong. I won a little a day. I don't think it was your fault, Peppino. I know it. No. Per favor, Capo. It is not fair.
You shall have plenty of time for squabbling back at the prison, gentlemen.
I don't believe this. How could he have been a real detective?
Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. So the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in this pair's hideout. truth is we took him prisoner and kept him for the night, even though we didn't think it was a real text. I was too scared to let him go. We took the maid's identification and shut him in the room next to ours. This might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm.
Hold it!
What do you mean by a little tussle exactly?
Boy, it was nothing, just a minor incident. They thought so, Inspector. He was a real piece of the work. Eh, Capo?
What happened?
It was a disaster. We gave him a nice room, and what does he do, huh? In the middle of the night, he tried to escape through the ventilator.
Can you blame him?
We chased him, Benjo, and we caught him again.
Can you blame us?
Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haste, did you? Who do you think we are? Of course not. I simply caught hold of him again and took him back to the room. Also, glad to know by that judging by that little voice clip, I'm doing De Rossi's voice basically exactly. basically correctly. Good. Mr. De Rossi, is something wrong?
Me?
Something Mr. De Rossos just said seemed to make you, seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that all about?
Cavolo, at times like that, you don't want to have the capo after you, believe me. And I speak from personal experience.
Personal experience? That is enough, Peppino. There is no need to say more.
The truth.
I keep almost going back into Britain. I keep almost going back into the
Britain's truth and all that once what such, you know.
Oh my god, I'm awful. This game brings out the worst in me. I'm so sorry.
The truth is, the night before he put the red-handed league plan to action, I was scared. It was not fair to the capo, but I tried to run away.
It's a shame you didn't manage it.
But the capo here, he came after me like the turbine, and he dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have the bruises to prove it, eh, capo?
Bruises, you say?
You want to see, You want to see my fantastical bruises?
That's enough now, Peppino. No one wants to look at any part of you. Jesus! You know what? I did just realize this is basically Italian Luke. I have like half a dozen voices, okay? And I put different modifiers on each. unless you mean design-wise with the hat, in which case, yeah, that too.
What did you do? I assure you, or I don't. I assure you, or I don't.
You do. Now!
Allora, if everyone wants to see, then I do it.
Wait. Where is he? Where the fuck is he? I did mean voice-wise with the hat. It's pretty simple. Wait just a goddamn second. Look at his neck. Look at the top of his, look at his neck. Interesting.
He's still very invisible, eh?
That red ring around your neck? You got that when you were dragged back to the house?
See, the capo sometimes he's very...
I said that's enough.
Why did I snort? That was gross of me.
Peppino's neck has nothing to do with what we are talking about here. You have my word.
Yes. What is your opinion, Counsel?
About this red ring? Does it matter? It's important. Mr. De Rossi, I'm gonna have to ask you to amend your testimony with details about that mark on your neck.
Hey, capo, you see? Everyone is interested in what I say, huh?
You'll amend the testimony. Let me take a drink. Put the collar on him and dragged him back, like what he did to me. Another one. Another one. He spent the night in the nice room. It was nothing like prison, really. Okay. Not much to go on, really. But this one does make me wonder, you know? About this pocket watch belonging to the inspector, I mean. Yeah, the one he treasured so much, apparently. If he was confined but not restrained, as the witnesses are implying, he would still have been able to unwind his watch. That's very true, yes. Wait. Right. Sorry, Susato. Bleep. Okay. Like what he did to me. But if that is the case, why doesn't he have a bruise on his neck?
Objection.
So the day before his body was discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito. No, it was not like that. It was hardly a prison. It was an invitation to stay. It was only. However you describe it, there's one glaring inconsistency that remains.
What inconsistency is this, counsel?
I would ask the court to look very closely at this photograph of the victim, Inspector Gregson. You will see there's no red ring around his neck.
Yeah, but that makes no sense. It was me who took the collar off the man in the morning. And I saw the red bruises on his neck just like I have.
Given that the mark is still clearly visible on the witness's neck, we expect to see bruising on the victim, who's put in the collar more recently.
Indeed, that is most peculiar.
But what did we tell you, huh? He said this is from the beginning, many times.
Peppino's right. The man in the photograph. It's somewhat different to the male captives at night.
Order! Please stop fucking crying, holy shit.
It would appear then that on the day before the incident, an incognito inspector was not Inspector Gregson at all. If that's true, however, how do you explain the inspector's identification? This is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone could have stolen such an important item from the inspector. The prosecution made that assertion itself. To be honest, they're too pathetic. Yeah, they couldn't have killed anybody. And we also know the inspector had made a note about the Redhead League in his diary for that day. Which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely.
The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real good Inspector Gregson whom these two red-haired gentlemen encountered, the fact that no bruising can be seen around his neck defies explanation.
But equally, if they actually encountered an inspector, how did that person come to be in possession of the real inspector's identification?
Does the defense have some plausible explanation, counsel?
The whole thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes in the court record, Mr. Naruhodo. Because those are the facts, and the facts cannot lie. No, the facts can't lie. Even when they point to something so incredible, it's almost unbelievable! Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned something or other, who turned up in the park for the Redhead League's enrollment, is revealed by information in the court record, I believe.
Wow! Real shit?
Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo. So why don't you help us all to see whatever truth is that you've apparently seen? Who exactly was this inspector that appeared before Mr. de Rosso, Mr. de Rossi? I'm gonna say Gregson right now. No, you have to say it, Naruhodo. But I don't want to. Why not? I just have this feeling in the back of my head, like in about a century from now, this phrase, it's going to be ruined or something like that. What other nonsense? Just say it! Fine. Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to only one thing. Since no bruising can be seen on the victim's neck, the person who these two red-headed men took prisoner that day could not have been Inspector Gregson. Okay, he didn't actually say the word. That's good. We love to see it. We love to see it in this house. In other words, your whole argument up until now has been a waste of time.
Objection.
On the contrary, I haven't finished. What? There's no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, Who exactly was this man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Inspector Gregson's identification?
See, that's right. We tell the same story every time. Whoever this man was, the couple drags him from pillar to post with the dog collar.
Mon Dieu, Peppino. Not so harsh as you say, huh?
Who's that falso inspector, eh? Who was he?
Clearly, the defense has an idea about that. The true identity of the man these two imprisoned that night. I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate post-haste. Who were the witnesses in the park encounter posing as Inspector Gregson? They look absolutely fucking nothing alike. But it's the only answer.
Take that!
Goodness me! Isn't that
One of the witnesses who was in the stand in this very courtroom earlier today. A nameless man whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passersby. What on earth would a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses, is this the man or not? What has happened to his lip? Ugh.
See, this man is not for the Red League, eh? He's looking for the Twisted Lip League, no?
Perhaps rather than making such a rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead. Okay, first off, horny. But second off, it seems improbable, yes. But one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noted something around the man's neck. A red ring of bruising. What? Defense demands Mr. Gossip be brought back to the stand. This is gonna be the worst cross-examination of my life.
Order, bailiff!
Bring the aforementioned witness back into the courtroom immediately. It's not because of the characters. Honestly, we've had more irritating characters. But it's the fact that I'm going to be going between a fake-ass Italian accent, a fake-ass French accent, and whatever the fuck I'm doing with this man's lip. Oh, welcome to the circus, everybody.
Well, I never.
An undeniable ring of bruising indeed. Identical
To that of the other persons.
Now what's going on? Here, eh? I've always had this to me. It's a birthmark, isn't it?
A birthmark, you say? I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand has been explained to you?
I'm something about an inspector again. But I'm telling you, you've got it all wrong as usual.
You're denying all knowledge of it?
Of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense, eh?
Well, at least you'll have more stories to peddle back on Fresno Street, won't you? Damn, Cosmo out for blood. Now we're going to need you to testify again. And you, Mr. de Rosso and Mr. de Rossi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you?
Do we have any choice? We're in big trouble, eh, couple?
It's quite enough dilatory chatter. Proceed with the testimony.
Or else. Damn, I don't think they're gonna.
Okay. The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man. He's right, see? You think we would have forget these grand lips, huh?
I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any redhead league. I'm all alone in the world, me. I have no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, huh? Look like I can carry off in the skies with a face like this.
It would certainly appear that we have the wrong man, eh?
What have I been telling you all? There was no need for this pointless testimony.
That's right. I'm just a simple peddler. Remember? Fresno Street's all I know. How would I have come by a police inspector's identification book, eh?
Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but... a brief cross-examination, I think, counsel. Very brief. Isn't there anyone who thinks I might be onto something? I stand steadfastly at your side as always, Mr. Naruhodo. This guy's the culprit. I hope not. I can hardly do the voice as is. You think I could perform a breakdown with this? Anyway, I don't think we're anywhere near the culprit. I don't think we're anywhere near the culprit. It's just we're on a whole different tangent right now. The man who claimed to be an inspector was definitely not this man. You would think we forget these grand lips. I never leave Fresno Street. I have no interest in any redheaded league. I will eat a shoe.
I'll hold you to that.
No. Nah, you don't have to. But then you and Ladoggle would have another thing in common. Eating footwear.
Hold it!
So, you've heard of the Redheaded League, had you? You don't give a name like Gossip for nothing, eh? It's my business to know what's going on in town. I told that tasty tidbit a fair few redheads came past me. Just between us, and we got sandwich to come up for it.
Well, he does have a very red nose, if that counts.
Who knows? But as you can see, my own hair's got nothing to red in it. In any case, Fresno Street's my patch. You won't catch me standing up to some other part of town. No, sir, not likely. What do you have to say? Please, take me away from this man's voice. I swear to God, I regret every decision I made with this man's voice. Mr. de Rosso.
Oui, can I help you?
Did Mr. Gossip's words just now lead you to remember something relevant, perhaps?
It was the other day when I was looking for a place near the park, a small house or something.
To be the headquarters of the Redheaded League, yes.
I visited an housing agent on Lime Street and there I saw him. This man was paying money to the agent.
What? Mr. Gossip with a housing agent?
He had some kind of contract in his hand and they were clearly discussing terms.
But now, you're mistaken. Okay, now it's turning into old man voice. You're mistaken, chum. I never let Fresno Street me, like I said before. You mistaken me for someone else. Someone with the same face.
No, the capo is right. I remember it too. He was paying the man within the banknotes.
Oh, case in point, this is hell. I hope y'all are entertained, because, man. With notes. Like I said, that wasn't me.
I was curious why this man with a dirty closet so much money. So I looked at the name on the papers.
And what name was written? Mr. Gossip?
No, this man, he lies. He tells you he has no name. But in fact, his name is Hugh Boone. He's better than Mr. Gossip, I think, see?
Information, like I said, on Fresno Street, and that's that. I don't much like folk talking about my personal life.
Indeed. It is not the intention of the court to invade the privacy of witnesses. Very well, I shall respect your wishes, sir. The aforementioned name shall be redacted from all court records of this trial, assuming no objections.
Very big objection. I'm sorry, my lord, but the defense does object. Because the name you just mentioned has a very deep significance to this case.
Good gracious, do you similarly object, Prosecutor Asogi?
As it happens, my lord, that particular name has already been mentioned during today's proceedings.
Well, I never! In what capacity?
Bruh, did you really forget?
Hugh Boone. The name of the leaseholder of the room.
Let me put this very simply. The victim's body was discovered in your rented room. I suggest, sir, that you start talking.
Well, all right. I suppose that might be the case, eh?
So, your real name is Hugh Boone.
Well, typically I sound like to blow me out trumpet, but there's no kind of fellow tidbits in town. So I happen to be able to afford a comfy little room in a falling down backstreet townhouse.
You do?
And once every 6 months I go and pay the rent to the agent on Lime Street. I remember now. There were 2 vulgar redheads in there last time.
If either of us is a vulgar, it's not me.
Think again, Peppino.
Why didn't you bring this up before?
It's like I told you already. I don't like talking about my personal life. I'm a big peddler. Because everybody else is concerned.
Oh my god, that thing. Oh, that was disgusting what I just did. I'm sorry. Let me just wipe my face. Ugh. There's getting into character, and then there's getting too into character.
No shot.
Also, I like that this is the exact opposite of the this is basically the polar opposite voice of the scientist juror from last case. Because what I did for that voice is that I pulled my lips back over my teeth and I made them sound really old that way. And now this when I have my lip out like this, it's all protruded. Makes it sound like I can't fucking get a word out. Voice lessons with Perry.
You will update your testimony to this most surprising revelation, Mr. Boone.
Oh no, yeah, it sucked. Like whenever I had a chance to not have my lips pulled in over my teeth, like that was great in that case. With their forces combined, they become a man with regular lips. Yes, if I must. So the leaseholder Scotland Yard has been looking for since the body was discovered has been here under our noses all along. Greg said, "No! No, you are not telling, no. No, now I gotta try it." I slammed my penis in the car door. It is! It's like bootleg, it's like bootleg Daffy Duck, except instead of his penis, he slammed his lip in the car door, which sounds worse. Ugh. Has been under our noses all along. I remember that close shot is true. For what difference it makes. I'm all alone in the world, me. I'm no kinfolk or nothing. But I'm involved. Wait. Hold on. It was found on a desk at the scene of... Yeah, wait a second! No fucking way.
Objection.
Was I right? Was that one-off comment I did right? I'm going to fucking... If you have no kinfolk, as you put it. And explain why it is that among the sparse furnishings, we found this photograph in the room. I presume as you've been renting the room, this photograph belongs to you, does it not? Oh, well... Mr. Boone, drop the pretense and tell the court exactly who you really are. Ooh, I don't know what you mean. I'm a pet doctor. I keep telling you so. You don't need to bother with me. Please, just leave me alone. As the man says, leave it alone. Whatever the truth is about the man's life has no bearing on this case. It's simply not possible he impersonated Inspector Gregson. How can you be so sure? Just look at the man. No amount of disguise could ever hide those admissible features. But what if we were to look at this the other way around? What do you mean? Yes, counsel, what do you mean? Well, there's no denying that Mr. Boone's lip is very prominent indeed. But consider the possibility that his prominent lip is itself part of an elaborate disguise. Then hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make an utterly impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Hugh Boone? Oh, yeah, get that cornered theme in here. Good witness! Are you still hiding the truth from this court?
If that's a disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be...
Yes, that's right. There's really only one person he could be. My lord! Defense believes it could reveal Mr. Boone's true identity to the court. No, please, no. Very well then, counsel. What is the true identity of this peddler who goes simply by the name of Gossip on the street? Was I right all along? Was I right all along? I saw the hair, and that was like, well, probably just a funny coincidence, but no. In Ace Attorney, there's no such thing as coincidence.
Take that!
Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Daily Vigil.
I don't recall that name, Counsel. Who is this Mr. Vigil?
It's a name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Mr. Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact. This is Mrs. Vigil. What? From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found dead. But of course, on that night, you were being held captive by 2 red-headed League men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution service in preparation for testifying in this trial. Because we'd been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we needed to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only become unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife, who's been beside herself with worry, waiting for you at the Vigil residence.
Just hold on a minute. I had the first idea.
What I'm talking about? Really? Bitch?
It's simple enough, Mary, to confirm my suspicions. So let's get this straight. Daily Vigil is his real name, Gossip is his real fake name, and Hugh Boone is his fake real name. How many alternate identities does one man need? All we have to do is pull off that disguise. No, please.
Bailiff, bring soap, a sponge, and a wash bowl at once. We're gonna waterboard this son of a bitch. Mr. de Rosso and Mr. de Rossi, you will restrain the witness. Wait, no, wait, actually, really? Wait, what the fuck?
Oui, my lord.
See, my lord.
Down! Get up, please! Down!
Does this mean I can stop doing the voice? Rossi hugging his arm is so cute. Yeah, that's adorable.
Well, we are now seeing your true features, I presume.
He sure is perpetual pensive emoji, isn't he?
Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face.
It's just the pensive emoji. Okay, a bit better now.
It would appear that the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception.
Also, Venus is probably gonna set this guy on fire.
So witnesses, tell this court. Have you all seen this man before?
I don't believe it, but... See, there is no question. This is the inspector we saw at the park.
Extraordinary.
On the day of the Red-Headed League enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson who appeared before Mr. de Rousseau and Mr. de Rossi in the park
Was you, disguised as the inspector.
or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all? Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as a chief warder at Barclay Prison.
The chief warder? Then your career had promise.
Why? You would quite possibly have become the future governor of the prison.
What on earth have you been doing peddling tittle-tattle on Fresno Street?
Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years? I'm really dreadfully sorry about all of this. Yes, it's true. I am Daily Vigil. And you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison 10 years ago. So where did Mr. Hugh Boone come from? Ah, Boone is the other me. It's a name I invented.
Well, evidently there's a great deal under the surface here.
I'll explain everything. I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. As you say, it was 10 years ago now that my employment as Barclay's chief warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. But times were hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all.
In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares at Fresno Street.
But your wife appears to know nothing of this. She still maintains that you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison.
I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my failings, which is why I've never told her. I opened an account at the bank under the name of Hugh Boone, and rented the cheapest room I could find on Fresno Street.
The scene of the very crime we're investigating.
Yes, that's right. A place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler.
Is that? No, that's Beppo, not. Okay.
And transform your...
On the left, I mean. On the left, the shadowy figure. I thought that was somebody else in a top hat.
A well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine.
I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room. It does look like McGill. Yeah, kinda.
But that explains it.
But why on earth didn't you just tell us this in the first place?
I have a wife, sir, and 2 sons. Without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint them.
So instead you decided to conceal your occupation from them?
Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything.
Still, one thing doesn't add up. No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell to passing gentlemen, even at 6 apiece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as chief warder at the prison. Very true. To have kept your family in comfort, despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment.
That was all thanks to Inspector Gregson.
What? Inspector Gregson? What on earth?
It was some years after I had invented Boone and begun my other life as a street seller. He, the inspector that is, recognized me one day.
Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance of yours?
I knew him from my time working at the prison. When he saw what I'd become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family. And from that day forward, he visited me on Fresno Street with increasing regularity. Then one day, he asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment.
This is implied Gregson wasn't sugared. Don't. I was about to say, that was so nice of Gregson, and then you had to phrase it like that.
He asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment for him.
A secret? What was it?
If I was to impersonate the inspector.
What? Impersonate him?
We always met in that little room so the inspector could brief me.
A visitor sees tomorrow and take a statement from the patriarchess.
Listen, this is the one chance I'm gonna get to do this voice again.
It was always something along those lines. Surveillance work, interviewing people. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that Inspector Gregson had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially.
A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquished his identification to your care with intent to deceive?
Shit, damn.
That, as I'm sure I need not point out, is a very serious criminal offense. But why? What was the point of you impersonating him?
I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions.
Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. Oh, I miss him. You don't blab about this to anyone, alright? Ever! Even if, well, if I end up a croaker.
Ah, that one aids a little too well.
In time, he started to bring papers with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him.
So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park on Lime Street was really...
Yes, it was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my Boone disguise, and then went as instructed to the park, armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away.
Woof. don't know if he's guilty of the crime we're investigating. He's definitely not guilty of the crime we're investigating. So you don't need to eat that shoe. But whew. Well, it would seem this confession completely destroys the defense's case.
Explain yourself, Prosecutor Asogi.
My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered, at the hands of these two red-headed league men when they imprisoned the inspector. But no, that can't be. After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park that day, it was me. God, Daly is such a fucking twink. Oh, goodness. Finally, we have clarity. Oh. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur de la Défense, for proving it. What? Ah!
Order, order, order! Indeed, it would appear we have reached a de facto conclusion of sorts. These witnesses had no involvement in the murder of the victim. As proven, somewhat ironically, by the defense. I hereby call an end to the cross-examination.
Hold it.
Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witness. Kazuma?
What question, counsel?
It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out at the time. 10 years ago? The execution of the professor, Genshin Asogi! I want to be known. I want to know exactly what your involvement was. Oh,
Answer me, man! One moment, counsel. Is this related to the current case?
Naturally. It is the prosecution's belief that this case and the events of 10 years ago are inextricably linked.
Does the defense concur, counsel?
Kazuma, you're not yourself. You're not as calm and collected as usual. Poor Kazuma-sama, no wonder he's acting this way. Mr. Vigil's memories of what happened 10 years ago would tell the tale of Genshin Asogi's last moments. His own father. I know. I do understand that, but even so... Prosecutor Asogi. Do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Inspector Gregson's death? I need you to trust me, please. Very well. The defense has no objection.
I see. In that case, you will answer the question, witness.
The truth is, I remember very little at that time.
You've forgotten?
I'm sorry to say yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. But for some peculiar reason, my memory of the events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? Well, 10 years is a long time, but I've forgotten the reason why I left such an important job. Yeah, you're right. And not only that, Mr. Vigil's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing. It's broken all too easily. Which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection. Sorry, the human spirit? I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, and seal it away. But it never truly leaves us. If the seal is broken, the memories resurface. And when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed. But I really don't... Kazuma-sama?
But if it must be crushed, then so be it! Because the truth will not stay buried!
It's coming out one way or another. The Kazuma just explains Cyclops. Wait. You got a point. I mean, yes, trauma as well. But, like, Cyclops was always, like, an XP for, like, trauma in the old Ace Attorney games. I feel. Right now I understand. Trauma, secrets, things you want to keep hidden, things you tuck into the back of your mind. Now I understand. It's clear what his intentions are. He means to expose the truth at any cost. Perhaps if I pointed out the contradiction in what Mr. Vigil claimed earlier, it might cause some crucial memories to return to him. But should I? Should I present the evidence or not? Do it! I have no idea how this is going to go, but this is a court of law, and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to look at this. Evidence that clearly contradicts your version of events.
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement. I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago.
Well, yes.
In other words, you claim to have left the post of chief warder of your own volition.
Well, yes, of course. Why?
Tell me, do you remember seeing this document before?
No, I don't.
This is a dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of a prison staff member's employment.
A dismissal notice?
And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil.
What? It's mine?
So you didn't resign from the prison service after all. For some reason, you were dismissed as chief warder from Barclay.
No, there's been some mistake. I'm sure. I'm sure I tendered my resignation. The dismissal notice is nonsense. Oh, it isn't it?
If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember. According to the few remaining records, the final execution that you supervised was on 17th of June, 10 years ago. And on that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison.
The 17th of June.
Was that the professor's execution?
Professor.
As you were the chief warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings.
It does sound familiar.
And yet, that execution never took place. The convict, ostensibly executed earlier that day, later reemerged from his grave.
The convict came back to life?
In the cemetery in the middle of the night, yes, there was a witness. Every time I hear Professor, I always think of Layton as well, yeah. However, the witness claims that the moment after he saw the convict clambering out of his grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder, and the bullet pierced the professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the professor's actual last moments.
Yes.
Seeing as you were in charge of overseeing execution at the time, you must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head, somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil, I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on the 17th of June 10 years ago. And now it's time for you to drag them up. Mr. Vigil?
Yes. The whole prison, it was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. The shocking news ripped through Barclay like a hurricane.
What? Gee, this whole ordeal is, it's, God, what the fuck? Order! Do you mean to say, Mr. Vigil, that your memories of the time have returned?
My head, it's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, the screams. Oh my goodness. The papers. There were reports, articles about a man who'd seen a ghost. Yes, Enos Drebber.
Also, I'm saying what the fuck, and this is not even the last case. I'm worried here.
But surely those reports were exaggerated.
There were traces at the scene. Traces of what? In Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139. Blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there.
The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging are quite staggering.
I reviewed the police records from that time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigating team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved.
Are you suggesting that a prison warder abetted the man's bid for freedom?
Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murderer's execution as a way to help him escape.
You did what?
I remember now. The horror of it all is coming back to me. One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came back to the prison. I was called to the governor's office, at the top of the watchtower.
I'm sorry, Daly. This is a serious business, but I can help you now. As chief warder, you are responsible for overseeing the execution of four, eh? Well, it seems the fellas at Scotland Yard want to have a few wee words with you about it. You'd better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in person.
As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank. And the next thing I knew, I... The professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. And I let him escape. I'm finished. My life is over.
Order! Order! Bailiff, fetch a doctor at once! Court is adjourned for today, with immediate effect!
So, with Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day.
Thank you for the drink. My hands are shaking.
Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Vigil, Cosima, and Gregson. All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past. But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.
Sorry, no, did he jump out the window and lose his memory? God, yeah, that is fucked up if true. But, and I hate to do it to you, we're gonna have to save that for tomorrow! Oh my god. What the fuck? Investigate. Damn, we're not even in the next episode yet. Damn. This is still case 4! I know it's said to be continued, so I should have thought so, but yeah. Alright, thank you for coming, thank you for staying, thank you for watching the show. Tomorrow, we finish case 4.